Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the best books of 2024. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It is January 1st and I could not be more excited to share with you guys my favorite books of 2024. I feel like this year was a fine reading year. I would put it very middle of the road. Not a lot of these are going to be like favorites of all time. There are definitely some that are going to be, but generally I feel like these were like fun time books. But I wouldn't say like, I'm trying to think, probably 3 of these are like top tier favorite books of all time. And I would hope more of them would be that way, but I still had a great time with these books. And I think most of them are 5 stars, but there are a couple that are like 4.5s. I think we should just jump into it. I'm so excited. So first of all, we're going to talk about some honorable mentions. I had quite a few 5 stars this year. Not as many as I was hoping for, but you hope for all of them to be 5 stars. Then this would make this video really awkward and really long. But yeah, we're going to talk about some of them. Not all of them are included in this list. But first one on the honorable mentions is The Haunting of Belkwood. This was a big surprise. I had no expectations for this one, but I loved it. This is the type of horror that I like, where it's more talking about like, it's like grief horror, but not in like a super sad way. It's more like getting to understand yourself and coming to terms with who you are as a person and maybe something that's happened in your past, while also talking about ghosts. Like, I loved it. I loved it. So this is taking place in this like town that no one can actually enter anymore because it is literally a ghost town. Like, literally ghosts are in this town and they're the only ones that live there, and it's like they're reliving moments of their lives in this little ghost town. And our main character is from this area and she escaped before whatever event happened, and she's the only one who can come back. So it's kind of her story and her friends, and talking about what happened in this place and coming to terms with what happened. And it's really sad. I was sobbing at the end of this book, but it was so good and well written. I gave this one a 5 star. It was wonderful. It was a wonderful book. I would definitely recommend it if you want to try like light horror. Next up for honorable mentions, we have Gallant by V.E. Schwab. I love this book, and I definitely think if you like Addie LaRue, this is definitely more of the type of V.E. Schwab book that falls more in the lines of that than I feel like A Darker Shade of Magic. And this is an emotional gut punch. Like, it's funny because the main story is following our main character, who is a younger girl, but the main story to me and what I got from the book was actually the background story, which was the story about her parents. And I haven't cried that hard since, I think, what did I say? Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I was bawling my eyes out reading parts of this book, and it physically hurt. It physically broke my heart reading parts of this book, and the ending was just, oh my gosh. This was phenomenal, and I loved this book. I actually really liked the audiobook for this as well, so I would recommend that. And yeah, this was just, it was so good. It was lovely, and I give it a 5 star. Next up, we have Tales of the Celestial Kingdom. I gave this a 5 star overall, but there definitely were short stories in the book that I enjoyed more than others. This is part of the Daughter of the Moon Goddess series, where we're kind of wrapping up the story, because if you read the duology, then you know that it kind of left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. Not really, like, you know what happens, but it definitely wasn't as 1000% satisfying as it could have been. So basically, Tales of the Celestial Kingdom tells a prequel story, a story from the middle of the series in a different character's perspective, which I thought was really, really cool. And then it actually wraps up the story by telling what happens after the second book. And I loved it. I loved that we got this, like, it rounded out this duology absolutely perfectly. It was amazing. It didn't need to be any longer than it was. And I definitely would 1000% read it again because I loved it. Next, we have The Gathering, which is a true crime, I guess it's not true crime, but it's a detective fiction novel, and it's vampires versus humans in this like small town, and I loved it. I gave it a 5 star. It was our book club pick for October. It was just so fun. Like, it just was. It was such a great book that talked about some more serious topics in a way that's more digestible to people who don't like talking about serious subjects. So I thought that was a really interesting way to do that. I loved our main character. I adored our main character, and there's like a hint at a potential sequel, so I can't wait for that to actually happen. Then we had a graphic novel, which was so good, and it's Bad Dreams in the Night, and I loved it. I loved it. It's a short story collection of horror kind of like stories, and some of them are kind of funny, some of them are more serious. They're all fantastic, and I love the artwork. This is actually an artist that I used to follow. They used to be like a BuzzFeed artist, and then they kind of disappeared for a while because of this like crazy bullying situation, and now they're back. This was a 5-star. This was a fantastic graphic novel, and this is one of the books that is a perfect reason why there needs to be a young adult graphic novel section in the Goodreads categories. I mean, there just needs to be, because this would be on it, because it's so good. Next up, we have a 4.5, and that is The Dead Take the A Train. This was phenomenal. I don't know what just happened to my voice there, but I am channeling the horror and the love I have for this book. This book is like the Scholomance series on crack, like legitimately on crack. The main character is very similar to the main character in A Deadly Education. The situation is different, like they're not in a school like The Deadly Education, but they are hunting these like monster things that are insane. And like the book is so funny. Like this is like Deadly Education is pretty funny, but this book was hilarious. The only reason this didn't get a 5-star was because the ending, Cassandra Khaw is known to do some interesting things. I don't know how much of like, because I have not read a Richard Kadrey. I am planning to read a Richard Kadrey this year, but Cassandra Khaw has this thing where she does make books a little bit abstract, and you could tell that ending was definitely influenced by some of her more abstract ideas. So I do think the ending could have been toned down a bit, because it just didn't need to be that like crazy at the end. It would have been on the main list for best books, but again, the ending was a bit wonky. And then our final honorable mention is Annie Bot. I love this book. This is such a good book. I've talked about it plenty of times. I feel like I've talked about this book into the ground, but this is just everything I love about AI. Following an AI robot who has like a predetermined role in life, but it's basically a story about them questioning things and learning to lie and learning to be a human. And this book asks the question of what makes a human human and what makes a robot not. So anyway, those are the honorable mentions, and I love all them. I love them all so much. Let's get to the actual list. Again, some of these can probably move around a little bit, but generally this is in order. So coming in at number 10, we have a huge surprise, and it was on my surprise list. We have Red Rising. This is such a weird one because this is definitely not a favorite of all time. And it's funny because I think I listened to the dramatized adaptation. If you've watched my surprising books, it's the same spiel. It's the same little spiel. If I had not listened to the dramatized adaptation, I don't think I would have finished the book. I also did not like the beginning of this book, but once we got into like this world where they're playing this massive game, it was insane. It was insane, and I loved like getting to know the characters. I am worried about the rest of the series. I don't know if this series is going to be for me as a whole, but I was so compelled by what was happening in this book that I couldn't give it anything other than a 5-star and for it to be a favorite of the year. But at the same time, I have a weird feeling about this book. Like, I don't know what it is, but I have this off feeling that it's not supposed to be a 5-star, but it still is. Like, this is such a weird one to talk about. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about this book that like makes me so weird. But it is. I don't know. But yeah, this is number 10. Next up, we have a 4.5 book, and that is The Invocations. I loved this. Again, another book that would have been a 5-star if the ending wasn't, it was weird. The ending was definitely kind of weird. This is my Evernight copy, which is stunning. It is literal perfection for what this book is. I loved this book. I loved following our female characters. They were phenomenal. I loved the female power in this. I especially loved, this like literally gave me one of my new favorite characters. Jude is literally like, I love her. I love her so much. And I feel like she is just such a fun character to read about, and her story was so interesting. I loved everything about this book, except for the ending. Otherwise, it would have been a 5-star. And I love this copy of this book too. I was so happy. I love this book so much. But yeah, love this. I would highly recommend this to horror fans. Next up, we have another 4.5, and that is The Jasad Heir. I loved this book. Another one where the ending was just a little bit anticlimactic, and I don't love how it set up the next book. But the second book is still on my most anticipated books, and I think it's one of my 25 books to read in 2025. I loved this book. It was so much fun. The trials were so interesting. The magic in the world was so interesting. The friendships, the found family, the romance was so good. I would highly recommend this pretty much to anybody I know who likes fantasy. It's such a rich world, but also being super accessible. It's so good, and I highly, highly recommend this one. Next, we have a sci-fi book, which is like, whoa. It's like, whoa, a sci-fi book made it at number 7 on this list. The Family Experiment by John Mars blew my mind earlier this year. This is a 5-star book. This is what I voted for in the sci-fi category. It barely edged out Annie Bot, but this was phenomenal from start to finish. Again, another situation of like AI kind of things, because we have the situation where a bunch of these couples were picked to be included in this family experiment where they're given an AI child in alternate reality, and it's insane. It is insane, the discussions that are had in this book, and this is something that 1000% could happen. Like it legitimately could happen, and I could see people acting this way in real life and just being crazy. And then the ending was insane. I wasn't expecting the ending. This whole book was just a roller coaster ride of insanity, and I would highly recommend it. Coming in at number 6, we have The Luminaries. I actually love this book. This is a 5-star. It reminds me so much of like, there's just so much nostalgia. Basically what this book is what I was wanting from The Raven Boys. The Raven Boys was just like a boring version of what I wanted, and this was so much more interesting. Monster hunting. Our main character is part of an exiled family who decides to become a luminary, which is what her family is destined to be, everyone in her family. And basically luminaries are people who keep the forest and the town safe by hunting these monsters, and it's so interesting. The world is so cool. It does have a couple of flaws, but overall, because I enjoyed it so much, I did give it a 5-star, and it's definitely a series that I'm going to remember. And I'm currently on the 3rd book. I flew through the 2nd book, and now I'm currently on the 3rd book. It's a little bit better. I feel like I was really low in the picture. Okay, next up we have one again that I've talked about so much, and it is We Used to Live Here. I feel like I don't have anything else to say about this book. It's in my most surprising list. I have a like 2-hour-long video explaining things that happened in this to the best ability that I could at the time. There's more stuff that has come out, more Reddit stuff, more ciphers, so much stuff. So much stuff has come out since then. I absolutely love this book. It's a 5-star book. It is a trippy book that is following our main character, who is currently deciding on whether to demolish or refurbish or whatever it's called this house with her partner. And she ends up having some strangers show up and ask if they can come see the house because they used to live there, or the husband used to live here. And I was like, yeah, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. This book gave me nightmares. And it's just this psychological torment of what this book is. And the author is a madman. He really is. And I cannot wait for the next book in this world to come out. Next up, coming in at number 4, it's technically 2 books. It's 2 books, but I'm including it in one because they pretty much are equal to me. They are both 5 stars, and it is Assistant to the Villain and Apprentice to the Villain. I love these books. I think they're so fun. I can see why people don't like them, but this is the type of humor that I love in books. This cheesy, goofy humor is just so much fun, and I love our characters. I love them so much that I had such a fun time with both of these books, and I am so eagerly awaiting book 3. I am obsessed with this. I really am. I don't think they're romantasy books. I think they were included in the romantasy category, which I find kind of interesting, but they're just so fun. They're so fun. I love the villain. I love Evie. I could not ask for a more perfect series, and I'm really nervous because I'm assuming the 3rd book is probably the last, but I hope this is just one of those series that has like 20 books. Like, that's what I want. I want this series to just keep going. It's just so much fun. So yeah, this is definitely high up there, and these are probably all-time favorites because I love them so much. Next up, again, we have a finished duology because, well, I've read the 2nd book. The 2nd book isn't out yet, but I think like everybody got arcs for this book if you asked for one. But it is The Crimson Moth and The Rebel Witch. Oh my gosh. These are definite favorites of all time. This is one of my favorite duologies of all time. Oh my gosh, the tension, the romance. Oh, this is what I wanted Serpent and Dove to be. Serpent and Dove book 1 was a 5-star, and then the whole series was an absolute mess after that. This is what I wanted from Serpent and Dove, like later in the series. This is literally following a witch and a witch hunter, and it's amazing. It's amazing. The drama, the stakes, everything, the romance. Oh my gosh, I love the characters. I cannot with this duology how good it was. They were both 5 stars. They were equally as amazing. I would say this one's a little bit better, but I still love the second one so much, especially how it like opens up. Oh my gosh, I can't. And the pining, it's so good. So yeah, these are amazing. All you need to know, witch hunter collide. That's what this series is about. Okay, we are to my 2 favorite books of the year. Again, 2 all-time favorite books. I'm actually getting a second copy of one of them in the mail, the one I'm talking about next, because I don't have an original copy of the book, of like the original cover. So I am very excited to get that. It is Bride. I love this. This is my favorite Allie Hazelwood that she's written so far. I adore this main character. Misery is one of my favorite characters like I've ever read about. I love her so much. I love these, like, there's weird mini openings to chapters where you're getting like the inner monologue of our main male character without it being too much. Like, it's giving us hints of his pining, so you can like read it in the chapters, and it's so brilliantly done. Like, you know how he feels the whole time because of these little things, because you like literally just don't need more than what you're given in this book. It's so perfect, and it's so good. That's literally what it is. I cannot stop talking about this book. I love this book. It is almost number 1. It is number 1 and number 2 are basically interchangeable. This one is just like, it's almost there, but that first book had such an amazing impact, and it's a book I read in January, is number 1. So anyway, this is following our main character Misery, who is a vampire, and she ends up having to go to the werewolf lands, and there's fights between vampires and werewolves, and it's just, there's whole like this big politics system, and it's amazing. The world is amazing. I want another book in this series so desperately. There's even a mystery in this that I'm obsessed with, and I love the main male lead. He is amazing. Amazing. This is a book that I actually definitely want to reread in 2025. I loved it that much. So yeah, easily number 2. And then my favorite book of the year was our book club pick from January, and it is The Unmaking of June Farrow. This has lived in my brain the whole year. This is following our main character June Farrow, who's part of this line of women who seem like they lose their minds the older they get, and it's like this family curse, but you find out it has to do with this like time travel situation, and women go missing in their family, and there's like this whole family mystery going on in the background as well that happened with her mom, and it is, oh my gosh, I don't know how to comprehend how beautiful and amazing this book is. And there was this one twist that happened at the end that had me screaming, that had me crying, sobbing, running, throwing things, everything. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm literally getting like teary-eyed thinking about that twist at the end. So good. So good. I loved every single character in this book. I loved the mystery. I loved the romance. I loved how we handled the time travel, because I'm not a huge time travel fan, and I still love this book. This is a 6-star book. It is phenomenal. I would recommend everybody try it. It's short too, and it manages to do so much. I literally cannot say anything more amazing about this book. I adore this. This is easily in my favorites of all time, and I am excited. I probably will never reread this, because my reading experience the first time was so perfect that I don't know if I would ever want to reread this just in case. So this is going to probably never be read again, but I loved it for what it was. It definitely gave me similar vibes. Addie LaRue, just like the ethereal feeling that I got while reading that and reading this. So if you liked Addie LaRue, I would definitely try this out. If you didn't like Addie LaRue, I think you'll still like this more. So I think anybody should read it if you're into fantasy. So yeah, love this book. So that is my top 10 and my honorable mentions of 2024. Those are my best books. Yeah, definitely let me know down below if you've read any of these books, if you enjoyed any of them. If you didn't, even that is totally fine. Everyone has their own opinions about books. I am not here to judge anyone else's opinion about books. Bride was literally my second favorite book of the year. I cannot judge anybody. And definitely let me know what your favorite books of 2024 were. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure you like it if you enjoyed it. Definitely make sure to subscribe so you miss any future content. We got lots of things coming out in 2025 that I'm so excited about. So many cool projects. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.